Over the next few weeks, I'm going to be sharing my favorite plant-based fall recipes that my entire family loves. These recipes will be deliciously healthy and full of fresh, whole foods. There will be no crazy or expensive ingredients, so even if you are a beginner cook or on a budget, these recipes will be perfect for you. I will be compiling a wide variety of recipes that, when combined, will create a complete plant-based Thanksgiving feast. This week, let's start with a creamy butternut squash and sweet potato soup. These are all the ingredients that we will be using for this recipe. I will make sure that I link the recipe in the description down below so you can go and have everything written down, and then all of the steps that I show you today will also be written down in that recipe link. Cutting up a butternut squash can be pretty challenging. The butternut squash can be really hard, and it produces this substance that can dry your hands out. So I always like to do this little trick to make it a lot easier to cut up. I just cut the ends off of the butternut squash. I poke some holes in it, and I pop it in the microwave for just a few minutes. Doing this is just going to kind of start the cooking process so that it is softer. The peeling will come right off when you go to peel it, and it'll start to cook it through the inside so it's not so hard when you're cutting it up. While that is in the microwave, I'm going to start prepping my other ingredients. I am going to be peeling and cutting up one sweet potato. If you wanted to do the same process to the sweet potato that you did to the butternut squash, as far as like poking holes in it and microwaving it just to get it started cooking, then you can definitely do that if you have a difficult time cutting up some of these harder foods. Next, I'm going to peel and chop up one green apple. And then I will be peeling and chopping up one yellow onion. I'm going to be cooking this onion first, so it's going to go ahead and go into the pot before all of the other ingredients. At this point, my butternut squash is done in the microwave. It is going to be hot, so be careful when you're getting that out. I just like to use a towel to hold on to it even while I'm cutting it so that I don't get that whatever substance is on the butternut squash that like dries your hands out so bad. I just try and avoid getting that on my hands as much as possible. Now I'm just going to chop up this butternut squash into cubes. You'll need to scrape the seeds out of this base just like you would with a pumpkin. I like to use an ice cream scoop, but you can just use a regular spoon also. So first I'm going to just get my onions ready to start sauteing them. You can add a little bit of coconut oil. If you are trying to avoid a lot of oil, this is totally optional. You can just add a little bit of water. But I'm just going to turn this on high to get it like heated up. And then once the pot is hot, I'll turn it down to medium. And I just kind of cook these for about 5 minutes or until the onions begin to get translucent. While those are cooking, I'm just going to grate up some fresh ginger. The recipe calls for just 1/4 teaspoon, but I'm a big fan of ginger, so I'm going to add a little bit more than that. When you are making recipes, don't be afraid to add a little bit more of your favorite spice, or if the recipe calls for a spice that you don't really like, you don't have to add it. Recipes are not set in stone. These onions are done, so I am just going to add all of my other ingredients, except for the coconut milk, to this pot. So if you are somebody who's watching their salt intake, you can use low sodium vegetable broth, or you could just not use vegetable broth at all and just use water. It is not going to change the recipe all that much. And then 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, and a little bit of nutmeg, 1/2 teaspoon of curry powder, then just adding the fresh ginger. And then just gently stir this until it's all mixed up really well. You're going to turn the heat up to medium high, cover it, and cook for about 20 to 25 minutes or until your vegetables are fork tender. You'll want to watch to make sure that it doesn't boil over, and if it starts to boil too much, you might have to turn the temperature down just a little bit. But this is perfect, and you're just going to turn the heat off and add your coconut milk. And we're going to add 1/2 cup of light coconut milk. And then we're just going to stir this up, and now it is time to blend it. So the easiest option is to use an immersion blender, and you can just stick it in the soup and blend it up while it's in the pot. But I do not have an immersion blender, so I am just going to use this bullet blender. Is the only blender that I currently have, so I'm going to have to do it in a few different batches. If you do it this way in a regular blender, it only takes about 10 seconds to blend it up per batch. If you're using an immersion blender, it may take up to 5 to 8 minutes. When it's all done, it will be very creamy. So this is just the first of many pre-Thanksgiving meals that I'm going to be creating over the next few weeks. I'm going to put all of these meals in a playlist. So if you're looking for some really healthy, budget-friendly fall Thanksgiving meals, make sure you check out my playlist. You should have some leftover coconut milk, and just to make it pretty, you can do some little coconut milk swirls. And then I like to serve this with sourdough bread.